Greetings, everyone. So once again, I am Virna Rivera. I began teaching 9 to 10-year-old girls decades ago, and I have been a tenured teacher since 1995 in the Ateneo de Manila Grade School Science Department. It will be my 5th year of teaching young and active 8 to 9-year-old boys in the 3rd grade this coming school year. In the grade school, teachers are put in a grade level for 5 to 6 years at the most. Sometimes it can be extended to a year or two depending on the need. This is to help improve ourselves and not just be complacent with where we are. Okay, let's try to imagine what happens just before I start my Google Meet with the students online. There is chatter and a broad range of topics for discussion. It just tells how active the boys are. Science is a well-liked subject by the students, so when class starts synchronously online and the tone is set, they pay attention. We have this hand signal. Focus. Last school year, we used the G Suite apps, now called Google Workspace, in teaching. There were also others, such as Padlet, teacher-made videos, Edpuzzle, Flipgrid, Kahoot, and quizzes for their level. We also used a variety of apps for their formative and summative assessments, which brings me to my sharing this afternoon. I would also like to acknowledge my fellow science teachers, Mrs. Ana R. Angeles, Mrs. Marian Yu Lim, and then our subject area coordinator, Mr. Marlon C. Moralejo, and our grade 3 academic coordinator, Mrs. Charis V. Innumerable. This is an offshoot of our faculty discussion on assessments with the new teachers. This is just a quick task. I have some statements to make, and if you agree, do a dab. If not, make an X. Okay, number 1. A variety of assessments for students helps teachers gauge their learning engagement fairly. Number 2. Lack of careful consideration in assessments may negatively affect the quality of education we provide and disrupt student learning. Number 3. The goal of assessments should be the grade of students. Did you answer dab, dab, X? Good job. We give varied assessments in the different subjects. Students are asked to make their videos, post on Padlet, work on Google Workspace apps like Slides, Docs, Jamboard, and so on. They're also able to showcase their creativity and talents. Since we are now in a pandemic situation of online learning at home, the students are unable to take their usual pen and paper or practical tests in a real classroom. This is where Google Forms come in. To balance the understanding of content and skills, it is one type of assessment we give to the young students. I will not give examples of items anymore since not all of our attendees are science teachers. Why did we also use Google Forms to assess student learning? It is user-friendly, easy to administer, and self-checking, which helps us save time in grading assessments. Feedback is also given to students at an efficient time. It can also measure knowledge of content and skills. Like other Google apps, it has collaborative capabilities. We can share it with our fellow teachers for them to view and edit. And another advantage is that it is also mobile friendly. Students can also answer the form using their tablets or smartphones. There are also other features that we may not be aware of, like the contextualized feedback for formative assessment. We can see this when we go to the section on the answer options. For example, if a student can answer the question correctly, he can move to the next question. But if a student gives a wrong feedback or wrong answer to a question, he can get diverted on to a different path of questioning where he can be given guidance and feedback. With Google Forms, we can measure knowledge and basic skills such as classifying, comparing, and analyzing. For other subject areas, for the communicative subjects like language, Filipino, reading, it can also assess skills in spelling, reading, cause and effect, comprehension, context clues. For CLE, valuing, reflection. For math, computation skills, problem solving. What we can measure can go on and on. The teachers have a lot of ideas and they can think of many. Last school year, we used 2 Google Forms as summative assessments for the first quarter and 1 for the third quarter. They were administered during online synchronous meets with student cameras turned on. By doing this, the teacher can see that the students are engaged in the task of answering on their own. The Google Forms were already loaded in the classrooms for students to access when the settings are changed to accepting responses. This gives everyone the chance to answer at the same time within a given limit. The students are oriented about the manner of answering, reviewing the items well before clicking on submissions and time limit. Orientation is very crucial to accomplishing the Google form. There were also 2 Google Forms that we had. We used them as formative assessments as learning activity sheets. Okay, let's have a simple simulation sample. My dear boys, are you prepared to take your assessment on animals? We will be using Google Forms, which you did with your learning activity sheets last time. Kindly go to your classroom and click Classwork. Make sure to turn on your cameras. Go to module number 3. You will see the Google form loaded there. Please remember to answer the items on your own. That means you can do it. You are honest enough to work on this assessment. Once teacher clicks on accepting responses, all of you can start accessing it to respond. You're given 10 minutes to complete the 15 items. Go through each of them carefully and answer. When you are done, stop. Review your answers first. When you are confident with your answers, make sure to click on Submit. In the classroom, mark it as done as well. Remember to check. Do you have any questions? Now is the time to ask them. Looking back at our journey with online learning last school year, the attempt to balance the kinds of assessment we gave to students using Google Forms will continue. For students, by doing it, they still experience assessment in the classroom in a formal virtual way. They're able to follow directions in navigating through the application, gain independence in their work, doing their work, think and answer items with a time allotment, review their answers before submitting, practice honesty, and receive feedback efficiently. For teachers, we continue to collaborate with one another, reach out, and help improve ourselves for our students. In a recent STEP 2021 online event I attended, Father Johnny Go of the Society of Jesus asked us some questions on technology. I would like to answer them in the light of using Google Forms. First, by using Google Forms, we were able to administer assessment using technology during this pandemic. Second, its use provided efficient checking and feedback to our students. And third, we as teachers were still able to help students develop their critical thinking and values of honesty and rigor in what they do. To close, whatever type of assessments we create, it will always need careful planning, selection, and construction of items, bearing in mind considerations for our students and the context they are in given these times. We can also ask ourselves the following questions. 1. Is my assessment age appropriate for my students? 2. Will the assessment be relevant and help my student in his journey as a lifelong learner? With that, I end my presentation and I thank everyone for listening. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Virna, for sharing. Now we open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, feel free to send them via chat. As much as possible, it should be visible to everyone. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no questions, I would like to share a question that was posed of me before, habang wala pa, while we are still waiting. Somebody asked me before, how do you ensure honesty, especially for students who have weak internet connection? Because sometimes students are, you cannot see them. Sasabihin nila, teacher, my internet connection is weak. Can I turn off my camera? You have two options. Sometimes, kapag kilala mo naman yung bata, ano naman yon, you also give the child the benefit of the doubt. Okay, you turn off your camera. Okay, you answer. Or if you can, just to be safe also, you can tell the child, okay, if you would like, may I ask you to just leave the meet first, and then later on during our consultation period, because in school we have consultation periods, we meet the children there and then we let them do it one-on-one. Here, there's a question already. What challenges did you encounter in using Google Forms in testing? Okay. One of the challenges was the students do not remember their email addresses because when they answered the Google form, they were asked to type their email addresses. So it was a challenge for us. We had to access our files right away. So siguro if it's the first time to give them the Google form, pwedeng meron ka na nung account, email accounts ng mga bata. In school, we have what you call OBF accounts. Meron na. So sasabihin mo na sa bata. And then sometimes there are boys, mga ano ito mga one student in a class, they will say, teacher, I am not done yet. Kasi we have a time limit. The time limit is 10 minutes. If the child is not done yet, then I ask, or we ask, what number are you in? Usually naman, hindi naman ganun ka layo din yung bata. So we tell the other children, can we wait for them? Similar to that in the classroom, if a boy is not yet finished or if a student is not yet finished answering a written test, the other students wait. So we wait. Okay, there's another one here. Hi, ma'am. Did you experience any privacy concerns? What if the students have no email address? Okay, do you keep the Google form open for the public? Okay. I think, sige. Kasi since this is in school, the email addresses in Ateneo grade school, it's given. It is given to the students. So the university gave it, so we did not experience these. And then we have the tech support team. They train us on how to arrange the settings for the Google Forms. So just this morning, we had that training. Pinaalala sa amin yung mga settings. Okay, Shane, Miss Shane, I see you raising your hand.
Good afternoon, Miss Rivera. I'm from Xavier School, Novali. I'm a teacher also in grade school. Good afternoon. I'm very interested on how to use the Google Forms in assessing my students since I'm teaching science. And science also calls for a very rigorous testing, just like what you said. We cannot just bank on authentic assessments for the whole term to tell whether the student really learned. Since science is more of information based, so we also have to test the content, right? So
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide whether Google Forms is really a good way for me to assess the knowledge level since we are content based as well. So were you able to compare Google Forms with other kinds of platforms? Which is why you chose Google Forms over this other platforms. I mean, maybe there are other kinds of assessment tools that you have tried aside from the Google Forms, which made you decide on using the Google Forms eventually. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question, Shane. First of all, Ateneo subscribed to the Google Classroom. So if it's in the Google Classroom, kung ano yung available doon, that's what we used first. And since we were new to it, we saw the Google Forms. Siyempre, libre din nyo. I mean, yun yung binayaran ng eskwelahan. So we maximize the use of that one. There may be other apps that is for us to explore this school year. But for now, we use Google Forms.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I hope I answered it.
There are some questions in the chat. Allow me to read them. There's one from Ma'am Janina. When you encounter students who have many mistakes in their formative assessments, how do you help them online or offline to prepare them for their summative assessment?
Okay. Sige. Thank you for that question, Janina. Usually, hindi naman ganun kadami, no? Mga isa o dalawa. So how do we help them online or offline? Well, online, we meet, meron na kaming protocol na kapag yung bata ay nahihirapan, we call for them during consultation periods. And then we ask, I noticed that you were not able to get your quiz right, and you have many items, many mistakes. Is there anything that you would like to tell me why? And then the child will, wala pa namang nangyaring gano'n, no? But you can ask the child why, and then you can give extra exercises. We can give extra exercises during the consultation period.
Next question we have from Maria Hershey Regaya. Were you somehow limited by the kind of assessment you can give in Google Forms?
Okay. Hindi. We are not limited to this kind of assessment, no? It's just one of what we give to the students. We gave videos to them, we gave them the slides. And then in Google Forms, dito ngayon, we papasok yung if we can test for their skills in classifying, if they can differentiate things. And then observing also, you can let them observe because there are pictures that you can post there in Google Forms. Let them describe what they see. And then they can also they can identify the size, the shape, the color. So they can do observations there. And for other teachers, in math, they even used it for problem solving. And then for the communicative subjects, the language teachers, they used it for spelling. So ang daming pwedeng magawa doon sa Google Forms.
Okay, thank you
I
for that.
hope I was able to answer the question of Ma'am, is this Hershey Regaya? Follow up on emails. I'm fairly new in Google Workspace, especially used in teaching. But since you mentioned they sometimes forget their emails and that you have their list of emails, if you see that they missed a letter or very minimal error on their email, can we correct it ourselves? Or would you really not see if the email is wrong?
Yes, basically po, my question is to save time lang po kasi you mentioned they sometimes, di ba, have errors in their emails, tas baka hindi masubmit yung mga answers nila. So I'm asking, do you see those errors and can you correct them by your own para lang you don't have to engage with them anymore, parang gano'n.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for clarifying. When I mentioned about emails, kasi in Google Forms, the boys are asked to type their emails. So, yung iba, hindi nila maalala yung email addresses nila. So, what do? We have the list, and then on the list, we copy it, and then sa chat box, tina-type ko doon, and then the child will just copy it, and then he will type it in. He will copy paste it on Google Form when he answers.
Okay. Thank you po, ma'am.